Today I'd like to talk about a very confusing topic in biology, but it's absolutely essential to the what comes up in the future. There are three words that sound extremely similar. There are chromosome, chromatids, chromatids, and chromatin. Chromatin. Oops. Not chromation. Chromatids. Chromosomes, chromatids, and chromatin. They all sound very, very similar. They all begin with chromatin. They all begin with this chroma type thing. And the only thing that's different is really their endings. Chromosome, we have tid, and then we have tin. So those are all very sounding similar, but are very, very different. We'll start with chromatin because that's the easiest. So say that I have some genetic information. So let's actually, it's okay. So I have my nucleus. There is my essentially my nucleus, and inside the nucleus, whenever the cell is going about its daily job, cellular respiration, and if it's a plant cell, possibly photosynthesis, whenever it's doing its daily job, it's got basically all of this material. And what this material is I'm just going to draw it using this hazy type of drawing here, because you really can't distinguish what it is. This is called chromatin. This is chromatin. This is chromatin. Chromatin is essentially all of the nucleic acids, or whatever's making up the chromosomes and chromatids. That's essentially chromatin. When the cell is going about its daily duties, the chromatin, that's essentially what chromatin is. It is whenever the cell is doing its daily operations, it'll use this chromatin. Why? Well, if we zoom in on essentially the one part of the chromatin, it essentially looks like this. It'll essentially look like this, just winding back and forth. It'll just kind of wind all around. So why like this? Well, when we have proteins, we have these proteins that are sort of just like looped around these parts of the chromatin, and these are called these proteins that are looping around this chromatin. These are called histones. Histones. I'm not sure how it's exactly spelled. Histones. So these proteins, the reason that the chromatin is all loose like this is because it's easier for these histones to read this DNA. Because if it was all bunched up, it's much harder to read. When it's all loose and free like this, it's much easier to read. That brings us into our next part, the chromatid. The chromatid is essentially this packaged form of this chromatin. This right here is basically this packaged into this. So all of this here is essentially this right here. So this little tightly packed thing is this chromatin. This is called a chromatid. Dave, and if you're proud. So that brings us also into our next thing about a chromosome. So if this is a chromatid, essentially we remember chromosomes from pictures, sci-fi movies, as looking like this. Essentially, this is how we thought chromosomes look like. But in reality, these are what's called, this is a duplicated chromosome. This is a chromosome that has essentially made a copy, gone through replication to create a copy of itself. So if I have, say, so what I have here, that brings us also into sister chromatids. So what I see here, right here, this is where it gets a little confusing. This is one chromosome. This is one chromosome made up of one chromatid. Now, let's say I have two of these. Let's say I have there's one that I got from my dad, and here's the one that I got from my mom. Believe it or not, these are still one chromosome. This is still one chromosome. Just like this is still a chromosome. However, instead of being made up of just one chromatid, it's now being made up of two chromatids. What you can think about this is like a sheet of paper with identical lettering on both sides. So this is a sheet of paper. This is side 1. This is side 2. They all have the same exact lettering. The exact same stuff. Now, if these are two sides of the same sheet, you would still call this as one sheet made up of two pages. This is page 1, this is page 2. You would still count this as one sheet, so one sheet with two pages. Now, say that you have just just one side of the paper is used up. This is one sheet with one page. This is one page of writing, but it's still only one sheet. So the sheet in this case is like the chromosome. It's still a chromosome, but this chromosome here, this sheet of paper, is made up with two pages, just like this chromosome is made up with two chromatids. And yet this one is one sheet, just like this chromosome, but it's made up of only one page, just like this one's only made up of one chromatid. Chromosomes, chromatid, and chromatin are very important when you get into things such as meiosis and mitosis, which is the next video. And these get very important when we talk about replication and genetics.